In recent years, statues and monuments around the world that have honored controversial historical figures have been vandalized, from having been spray painted to even being beheaded. One of these statues is right near downtown Haverhill, located in Gar Park. It is of Hannah Duston, who is said to be the first American female to be immortalized by being cast as a statue. I met with Jan Williams, the director of the Buttonwoods Museum, to find out some more information.
Well, it was a very brutal period in our history. The English were at war with the French. The English were at war with the natives. The French were at war with the natives, and several of the native groups were at war with each other. There were attacks on either side, colonists against natives, natives against colonists. So it really was kind of a bloody part of our history.
Hannah Duston was a Haverhill woman who was taken captive by the Abenaki tribe in 1697 with her neighbor. Her baby Martha was smashed against a tree tragically in the event. For 2 weeks, she traveled up the Merrimack River with her captors and was left with another indigenous family. A few nights later, Hannah, her neighbor, and a 14-year-old boy who was also kidnapped woke up and murdered 10 of the indigenous people. Therein lies the controversy. A woman whose baby was brutally murdered, then kidnapped and escaped, but at the cost of 10 lives, 6 of which have been said over time were adolescents. It is hard to say that her actions were justified, but this is mostly speculative, as Hannah never wrote down her story. The first written version of the story was told by Cotton Mather, a controversial figure at the time. After he wrote Hannah's story, it was largely forgotten until the 1820s.
Basically because there is very little, if any, primary sources from the time of the capture incident, which was 1697. And so the reporting has primarily been oral history that's handed down from the Duston family and friends, and oral history on the Native American side. And there was a huge gap in time, well over 100 years, when the story was not widely told in the public domain. So you can imagine what happens to a story when it hasn't been written down. There are no primary documentation sources of what actually happened. And then we have over 100 years that go by. Based on what few facts we have is that the story has become larger than life and taken on its own mythic proportions.
So why erect a statue in the late 1800s? One can point to westward expansion, a renewed interest among settlers with tales of indigenous people after Lewis and Clark's exploration. Local writers Hawthorne and Whittier wrote about Hannah during this period, yet the statue was not erected until 1879, which was at the end of the Wild West. This time period aligns with connecting Hannah Duston's violent acts with American patriotism versus the Native American people. So now what does Haverhill do with the Hannah Duston statue? We'll hear from Jan again.
Is with the modifications that have been proposed and the fact that they are looking for funding or grants so that the Native American population can have their voice in on it too, whether it is an interpretive panel that it resides next to the statue or whatever form that it takes so that they can tell their side of the story and add proper balance to it. That's basically what we've tried to do here with our Hannah Duston display, is give the proper balance to the story.
No one is trying to erase the story of Hannah Duston, just to tell the whole truth of not only Hannah, but of the Abenaki tribe, and it feels like this will happen with the proposed revisions for the statue.